On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. We are the official podcast of the Lot 1 Tailgate Party, which is at Lambeau Field every home game. This is episode 129, created December 21st, 2025. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota. And Neil, he's in Green Bay, Wisconsin today. All right. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, gentlemen. Today I'm drinking from Dangerous Man Brewing Chocolate Milk Stout.
Befitting of a proper podcaster stereotype, I am recording in my mother's basement. And yesterday's game was a game that seemed to be very old school as far as Papa Hallis and the Bears of the 70s and 80s and our youth destroying us. And I am having a Anape Brewery Papa Old School IPA.
So I spent my Sunday creating a new drink recipe, and it looks like a Bloody Mary with the tomato juice, but it is made like a Long Island iced tea. It has vodka, gin, rum, and tequila in it. So therefore, it is called a Sunday, Bloody Sunday. Jeff, this drink is not a rebel drink. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, our topic, it is the second Bears week, a Saturday night matchup, and a little trip to Green Bay for part of the group here. And we did get to watch the game in Green Bay, even though the Packers played in Chicago. And another Saturday night game is coming up right around the corner as the Baltimore Ravens will be coming to town. We'll preview that Ravens game and give you some playoff scenarios. There are some interesting games coming up in the last 2 weeks. But Neil, it was great to see you last night. We had a good time. Although the game ended in a loss in overtime 22-16, there's still 59 and a half minutes roughly of pretty good play on this Packers squad, isn't there?
We had a very good time seeing a number of different old high school friends and family members. And yeah, it was another game of missed opportunities where everything looked like it was going well for so long. And I'll get into specific numbers about all of that. But the fact of the matter is we were only 6-0 up at halftime. More importantly, we made it into the red zone 5 times, and we actually made it inside the 10-yard line 5 times and got 0 touchdowns out of that. And that's the story of the game more than anything else.
Neil, the Packers had a TD percentage inside the 20 of 64.7% entering the game. 0.0 last night.
It was just so very frustrating to see this situation that's now recurring from what we had in Denver. And I think that what was most frustrating is it wasn't even that we were just barely squeaking into the red zone, but we were getting deep into the red zone and then all of a sudden playing a different game once we were there. And when you're inside the Chicago 10-yard line 5 times, inside the 7 4 times, inside the 5 3 times, that should not be a 0 touchdown situation. And even worse than that, one of those we did not convert on a 4th down. So we got 0 points out of that. And one Josh Jacobs fumbled. So we got 0 points out of that. So 9 points total inside Chicago's 10-yard line.
In addition to red zone issues, we had asshat issues last night. What else could go wrong last night? This was just goofy.
Well, we could lose our starting quarterback. Oh, wait, we did. Sorry.
Injuries
and we might not have him for next week as well. So because of concussions.
Not only might we not have Jordan Love, who is in concussion protocol, but also remember at the end of the game, Malik Willis did get injured. Now he did finish through overtime, but there's talk of who is the Packers emergency quarterback, right? And apparently Jaden Reed is one of the emergency quarterbacks. But now you have a question: is Clayton Tune going to get some reps in practice this week? This is a guy that's been on the practice squad and has been the answer to a trivia question all season. Who is the Packers' 3rd string quarterback? Because they picked him up after the 53-man roster was all set, and he's just been hanging out in the practice squad.
I guess we can talk about some positives in the game, right? Because there were a lot of things. I mean, we were ahead, and we lost in a fairly comical almost fashion. But we drove down into their territory time after time after time again. And you just have some question about some of the things. Obviously, on that first drive where it's a 4th and 1 and deciding to go shotgun on a fade pattern in the end zone, questionable as far as that's concerned. But we did make it down to the 7 on the first drive. The second drive is when we had the backwards pass to Wilson that sort of killed us from the 5-yard line and pushed us further back. 1st and goal at the Chicago 5. You should be scoring a touchdown 75% of the time when you have first down at the opponent's 5-yard line. And that one, again, another field goal. Now, so I guess the one positive for the Assets is, well, McManus made a bunch of field goals. None of them was long, but he made a bunch of field goals. And excluding the short drive at the end of the first half, our next drive, we get to 1st and goal at the Chicago 4, get the Jacobs fumble. The key drive where we scored the touchdown was the long touchdown pass to Dobbs. Guess what? We never made it in the red zone there. So apparently our key at this point in the season is just don't make it into the red zone, because you're going to be dead if you make it into the red zone. Throw it past the red zone, score your touchdowns from 20 plus yards out, and everything is going to be good.
The proverbial explosive plays. Yeah, what is it when we get into the red zone? Like I said, this year's been pretty good, but just these last couple games, what a disaster. 3rd down, we were good also at a 50% clip. We're 6 of 12. The Bears were 2 of 11 on 3rd down. The Packers had more plays. Statistically, everything looked really, really good. Time of possession. We had very few penalties.
The ones that we had, though, did matter a fair amount.
But not ideal. But, I mean, the Bears helped us out. All those unnecessary roughness penalties, roughing the passer.
I would argue injuring our quarterback is not helping us out.
But, John, what do you always like to say?
There's only one statistic that matters, Jeff, and it's putting those points on the board. And as Neil intimated already, at 9 points instead of 35, with a possibility of there being 49 points in this game, there's so many things that happen in this game, and the stalling and the failure there, it's such an extension of the Broncos game the week prior. This is a team who 2 weeks ago beat Chicago, went into Denver and played a great first half, and then fell apart in the second half in Denver, and then never really got any good traction this week in Chicago. And there's only 2 games left, and you've got the Baltimore Ravens coming to town. You've got to figure out how to stop that stumble and get back on the right track.
It's just strange how the defense, once again, in the first half was quite dominant, even without their best player, Micah Parsons. They weren't getting a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams, but they were containing him. They were shutting down the running game. I think that overall the Packer defense did really well in that aspect. The offense was moving up and down the field. They just weren't scoring any damn points.
And just to add a cherry to that, the Bears only had 38 total yards in the entire second quarter. Caleb Williams in the first half, 5 of 9 for only 65 total passing yards, and they had 40 yards on 9 rushes. So did a little bit with rushing, but not a whole lot other than that. They were being stopped. The Bears were ineffective. The Packers defense was making the Bears offense ineffective, and that even continued into the third quarter. Through 3 quarters, the Bears only had 9 first downs in the game. They only had 30 total plays in the first 3 quarters of the games. They were stuck at 187 yards through 3 quarters of the game. But unfortunately, this wasn't a 3-quarter game, and it wasn't even a 4-quarter game. It went 5 minutes of overtime. And while the Bears had 30 plays in the first 3 quarters, in those last 20 minutes, they also had 30 plays. They had 213 yards in those last 20 minutes. They had 11 first downs in those last 20 minutes. Caleb Williams, 143 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, as well as 21 yards rushing. So 164 yards from Caleb Williams' arm or legs in the last 20 minutes. That is in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And it's like everything good that they did in the first 3 quarters, they forgot how to do once that clock switched into quarter 4.
You're right, Neil. After the Bears punted towards the end of the third quarter, their next 4 possessions, field goal, touchdown, and then walk-off touchdown in overtime. So is it a case of our defense getting tired again? Is this a conditioning thing? Being in Denver last week, it was cold and windy. And then the offense, our offense, that had been moving up and down the field, they just sort of stopped. The field goal in the fourth quarter, again, in the red zone, and it was just too much not scoring.
Jeff, you mentioned the turning point in the game. And it's the Caro Santos field goal makes the score 16-9, 2:04 remaining in the game. And at this point, you're thinking we're still in the driver's seat. There's a 7-point lead, 2:04 remaining in the game. And Chicago, the question is, are they going to kick off or are they going to go for the onside kick? As we know now, they go for the onside kick. And now at 1:59 remaining in the contest, here is your turning point.
It was shades of 2014, deja vu
Yeah.
all over again from the NFC Championship game. The kick was to the right. We had our hands team in. We were poised to pull out an important victory and move on. None of those things happened because instead of bouncing up and not being corralled, this kick just skittered across the ground a little bit. Romeo Dobbs, Mr. Hands, after a phenomenal catch earlier in the game, just couldn't get the damn ball. Hits him, and Packers did not recover.
But as you can also see from the photo, he didn't move up toward the ball either. He waited basically for the ball to come to him, and essentially he played it the way an infielder might play and waiting on a bad hop. And sure enough, he gets the bad hop rather than aggressively grabbing the ball off the ground. And I want to make the comparison to the 2014 NFC Championship game because I rewatched that today as well as rewatching the game.
Neil.
Neil, jeez, what a glutton for punishment. Holy shit.
I will remind you that in 2014, we were still at the old rules, the traditional rules for an onside kickoff, where there was a decent chance of the kicking team recovering because they were all charging at full speed toward the ball. We are in the new kickoff rules, which I don't like because I think there should be a better chance of recovering an onside kick, all other things being equal. But right now, with the new rules, there is only an 8% chance of a recovery of an onside kick. It is essentially almost certain that you are not going to be able to convert that onside kick. And yet somehow the Packers did the seemingly impossible.
Yeah, someone in there, Neil, didn't make their saving throw, right? The Dungeon Master hit the 20, someone rolled the 1. It just did not work out. But Jeff, you mentioned too, the hands team, that's all that's in there. Ain't nobody blocking there. That's the other thing that is killing this play. I think Bo Melton had a great view of everything. I don't know what the hell he did, but he had a great view of everything.
To Neil's point, you have to announce that you're going to do this. This is not a surprise. There's no element other than here it comes, get on the damn ball. But you're right. Nobody's blocking. They're just sort of standing there.
I guess I'll have to mention that I got accused of jinxing the game too, because when there was 5:06 remaining, Neil said, "Oh, we've got a 10-point lead with 5:06. This feels pretty good." I said, "Yeah, well, at least it's not 18 points with 4.5 minutes remaining in the contest."
It was you, John.
It was me.
It was
I
you.
blew it. Yep.
We can still blame JP because we did stop at JP's house before the game. But even getting to this point, we had allowed the Bears to score 2 field goals in the fourth quarter already, right? At the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was a 13-3 game. They scored 19 points from the beginning of the fourth quarter until the end of the game, and we scored a grand total of 3. And yes, this was a critical turning point of the game, but we had already allowed them to get in it when we didn't need to do that.
The anomalies. If you run this game back, the Packers are going to win 99 times out of 100. One of the other key plays, the Brinson 15-yard face mask on the previous...
On a 3rd and 20, mind you.
Yes, that resulted in a sack.
It's a sack because he's grabbing the guy's face mask, but it is effectively the only sack that the team gets in this game.
Huge momentum change. I mean, the defense was hanging on, and it was clearly a penalty. I mean, he just had the whole face mask, but just how many times does that happen? Bad luck, bad timing. So then the Bears recover. Okay, they get the onside kick. So, okay, that's a kick in the balls. But then it goes even weirder. They recovered at the Chicago 47. So it was a 3-yard pass, a 10-yard pass, an 8-yard pass, a 20-yard pass, a 6-yard pass, 2 incompletes. So then it's 4th and 4 from the Packers 6. And the defense gives up a 6-yard TD pass.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I wish it were merely a 6-yard TD pass because we've got that photo on the screen and we just did not have coverage on the receiver who caught the ball. Yes, we had a blitz going in, but that is not why we had no coverage on their defender. It wasn't like a 7-man blitz. It was one extra man that we had going after Caleb Williams, and he found the completely open receiver. And it just seeing that touchdown reception be so easy made it even more painful.
The Bears perhaps did the Packers a favor. They went for the extra point. They did not go for the win. Packers defense was on their heels at this point. So had they gone for the 2 point, they probably would have gotten it. They kicked the extra point.
I'm not even convinced about that, Jeff, because we had gotten them to a fourth down, right? We had
Yes.
gotten them to a position where they had to make a play on fourth down. The defense was still making some plays. The problem is that there were too many big chunk plays that were thrown in at the same time. This is clearly a situation of Ben Johnson making the calculation that usually the situation is on the road that you will choose to go for two because, well, the road team has a disadvantage and you're looking at, well, what are my odds? Let's say 50% chance of converting the two versus 50% of scoring more points in overtime. Here it's like, well, our offense is playing better. Our defense is playing better. It is the mathematically correct decision to say, let's give them a chance to score in overtime because they may not, A, and B, we have a greater likelihood of scoring a touchdown. It seemed like that was a calculated decision that, well, the Packers may have a 50% chance of beating us on the 2-point conversion attempt. We've got a greater odds of that if we let it go into overtime. And certainly that's how it played out.
And really, all is not lost. It's a tie. You're going into overtime. And the way that the coin toss went, Green Bay ends up getting the ball first. So they've got an opportunity and they do move the ball downfield. And it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, everything's reset here. Let's try to make this happen. And they didn't do a terrible job driving downfield until one play, right? All of these
Well,
drives come down to really one play.
they do, but the Packers only had a 21-yard kickoff return.
When the ball would have landed in the end zone. That's perhaps the biggest thing. We shot ourselves in the foot by 14 yards by Savion Williams grabbing that ball up above his head at the 1 yard line when it certainly would have landed in the end zone. And that really hurts, right? When you're talking about something where field position matters with that amount of wind. First of all, I want to give credit to the Bears kicker because he had some amazing field goals. And I just had no confidence us making any long field goal in that circumstance, even though I do trust McManus. That was amazing what he did. But yeah, the yardage is going to make a difference. The field position is going to make a difference. Like even take the Bears' last drive, right? They got the ball at the 36. Well, if we had had those extra 14 yards and that exact same sequence had occurred, they start at the 20. Are they going to score a touchdown in that circumstances? Is their field goal kicker going to get lucky a fourth time in making a long field goal in those incredibly swirling winds? The field position started everything on that drive and started everything in a way that set us up not for success.
Exactly. So then we do move the ball and we get to the Chicago 45. We weren't in field goal range. A 3-yard run, a 6-yard pass, a sack, the second one of the game, and then a fumble.
Yeah, but that sack was really sort of a situation where Malik Willis was trying to run for it, and it started out looking like a passing play, but it was very much an RPO type of situation. And I don't really count that sack. That was just well, we didn't convert on 3rd and 1, and then we didn't convert, obviously, very dramatically with the fumble on 4th and 1. But it was all of those 3rd and short, 4th and shorts that this was just sort of a continuation of a pattern going back all the way to the first drive.
And as everything turns around, this really comes down to probably the best pass Caleb Williams has thrown in his NFL career. And Keshawn Nixon can't really cover any better than what he did, save for covering a penalty, unless he's suddenly, grew 4 inches taller, maybe, right?
That's the only way he's doing it better. But nonetheless, we do have a CB1 that is not particularly tall. And against taller receivers, that's a problem. Nonetheless, an incredible pass by Caleb Williams, and kudos to him.
This pass is 55 to 60 yards in the air, and it lands in the exact perfect spot, the only spot that it can be caught, the only spot where it's not going to be intercepted or deflected. And I can't even say anything wrong about this. It is just a beautiful pass. This is going to be a highlight reel pass for the remainder of his career.
And he hung on to it. The contact with the ground landed on him. What are you going to do? This is one where you're just like, well, shit. That's the game.
You're right. That's exactly what you did. We sat there and just, well, shit. I guess we just wrap it up and walk away.
You know what we could have done? We could have put some pressure on Caleb Williams.
Well, I think they did. Quay Walker was held on that play. Everybody's seen that picture.
Yeah, the 3 feet of stretched jersey. Yeah, that's not too obvious.
Yeah.
But that was a theme throughout the game is the problem, because we're now at another game where we went without a sack.
And even the pressures were minimal.
We only had 4 QB hits, no sacks, 2 tackles for loss. We just weren't getting any pressure. And Rashawn Gary, he is now is 8 straight games without a sack or a tackle for loss. In fact, he didn't have any tackles at all last night and 2 QB pressures. Just not getting the job done.
Yeah, I brought one jersey with me to Wisconsin, and I brought a couple of shirts with me to Wisconsin. I've got a Rashawn Gary shirt. I'm not wearing that because, well, why would I wear a Rashawn Gary shirt? And Lucas Van Ness is the jersey I have, and we are not getting it done with our front. And there were some plays where we did get some real pressures. There was the intentional grounding. There were a couple of times that Caleb Williams threw the ball out of bounds. Those were almost exclusively when Jeff Hafley said, I've got to send 5 or even sent 6 on some of those plays. And we are not getting the pressure that we need. And unless somebody is actually going to step up, it's going to require Jeff Hafley doing a coaching job that will absolutely guarantee that he will be the hottest coaching candidate in the NFL this offseason, because he's certainly dealing with a D-back core that has limitations at the cornerback position. Obviously, the front four has significant limitations as far as getting pressure. It's really only the linebackers who had a really, really good game. And again, Cooper and Quay both played great games, a bunch of huge plays from them. Bullard also stood up in this game and in place of Evan Williams. But, essentially we've got these 3 people that are right in the core, and that's all that's performing at a high level on this defense right now.
And as we talk statistics, right, Hafley coaches this defensive squad, missing Micah Parsons with all these other injuries you mentioned, Neil, and held Chicago to 9 points through 59 and a half minutes. And it's really that last play in regulation and the play in overtime. And it's only a couple of plays. And this is a team, we've been saying this consistently through this season. If you can eliminate the mistakes, they are unstoppable.
Yep. They're only stopping themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Statistical anomalies. Let's throw another one out there. So this is the second game this year where the Packers have not punted, and the second game we've lost when we haven't punted. The rest of the NFL, yeah, they're 8-0 when team hasn't punted.
Yeah, usually when you're not punting, it means you've got good ball control, you're scoring, or you're doing something with every drive. Yeah, that's crazy. 0-2 with no punts.
And only 1 turnover as well, right? I mean, it wasn't like we were just reckless and, the ball was flying everywhere. 1 turnover. Now, a critical location where that was. But I'm just going back to what our offense did, right? Our first 6 real drives, we either scored a touchdown, scored a field goal, or we're within the Chicago 10-yard line. We're moving the ball downfield. That was the control. That's why we had such a dominance in time of possession. Through 3 quarters, we had almost 29 minutes of time of possession out of 45. So it's like 29-16 through 3 quarters. And that's what made that collapse so much worse. It's like what was in Denver, that we could see the victory. We could feel the victory. It's like, oh, obviously we're going to win this game. We've got a 2-score lead in the 4th quarter. And then we didn't.
And let's keep picking on the defense. Other than forcing a turnover on downs early in the game, again, no interceptions, a dropped interception, another one of those, no forced fumbles, just not creating the turnovers, making the margin of error just razor thin. And then if the offense does have a turnover or something bad happen, there's just not that much margin of error here.
And again, in the 4th quarter in overtime, 213 yards for the Bears offense. That does not speak to a defense that played well. They played really well for 3 quarters. They did not play well in the last 20 minutes of the game. The other thing, though, that we didn't take advantage of is all of the Bears penalties. The Bears had over 100 yards of penalties, and they gave us 3 first downs in the game. And when you look at the total numbers, it's like, well, the Bears had a slight advantage in yards because of what they did in that 4th quarter and overtime, but we had a huge advantage in penalty yards compared to the Bears. And total yards, if you include penalties, we were way ahead in total yards as well. And it's just disappointing when they were trying to give us the game in a number of different ways and they didn't. But the other thing, of course, is they were trying to play dirty, which was abundantly clear right on that opening kickoff when they dove on top of the pile. And then Austin Booker with 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties against Jordan Love. Like, we needed to perhaps sign Charles Martin to the team before this game and fuck some shit up, because they were clearly targeting Jordan Love and wanted him out of the game. And it's been my long-standing opinion on the concussion protocol and other injuries. If somebody is knocked out of a game because of an illegal hit, the person who knocks them out of that game should be out for as long as the player is out. You're essentially rewarding bad behavior by allowing that player to stay in the game. And concussion on a helmet to helmet, the concussion was clearly caused by an illegal hit. He should have been gone from that game immediately at that point. And it's frustrating that when you say that you're going to be in favor of player safety, and yet you're essentially rewarding teams for knocking players out of the game, that does not say you are pro player safety.
Agreed, Neil, because it was blatant, and he did get the penalty, obviously, but he remained in the game. That's the part that I thought was really interesting, because this whole emphasis on lowering the head, crown of the helmet, it had all of those components. That's what he was going for.
And it was his second unnecessary roughness against Love in the game.
Neil, I agree. I like your theory on this. But remember, he's going to get a little letter from the league office this week. There's going to be a fine associated with that hit. And albeit after the fact, it doesn't change a lot with the game. But that's the idea there. He's gonna be a little bit lighter in the pocketbook.
They got the win.
And they got the win.
The win matters a hell of a lot more than the small amount of dollars that the NFL is going to fine him.
All right, guys, that all being said, let's give a little love to Malik Willis.
Yeah.
He steps in, and this offense doesn't miss a beat. He made some amazing throws.
But it's a different offense when he's in the game. And it's such an incredibly different look how Green Bay runs the ball when Malik is in there as a quarterback.
Successfully runs the ball.
Successfully running the ball. And it really leads to some great play action plays that Willis was able to have.
Packers had 192 yards rushing on 44 carries, 4.4 average. But Emmanuel Wilson steps up. I mean, he had 14 carries, 82 yards, 5.9 average. He was great out there. Now, Josh Jacobs, he's a warrior. He was out there. He's clearly not comfortable. And that's okay. And Willis running, again, his legs. He had a couple fantastic scrambles. Neil, how many yards did Willis have scrambling?
Officially, it's 10 for 44, but 2 of those were kneel downs at the end of the first half. So realistically, 8 rushes for 46 yards for Malik Willis. And they all seem to come at really critical times in the game. And I want to go back to that first drive, right, where Love was in shotgun. We threw it out to Christian Watson in the end zone. If Malik Willis is in there, he's going to cause there to be a threat that's going to keep those defenders in, and there's going to be more space that's available. I'm not blaming that on Jordan Love. I'm just saying there's something Malik Willis does that provides different opportunities. And I think that's what it is. I don't think he has the arm skill set that Jordan Love has at all, but it doesn't matter because he is bringing different things to this team. And as we saw last year, if unfortunately we have to play Malik Willis against the Baltimore Ravens, which I hope we don't, but if we do, we should have a game plan that actually is built for taking advantage of Malik Willis.
He's not a run-first quarterback, but he's certainly capable and will run with the ball.
What I like about Malik is he is a great number 2 quarterback. He fits in this system. He is a great change of pace. And to his credit, he is playing himself into a better contract. Someone is going to offer him money next season to be their starting quarterback. Unfortunately, he's not going to have the same success, in my opinion, as a starting quarterback, and it's going to fall apart, and then he's going to get called a bust or whatever the case may be. I hope Green Bay makes him an offer to stay here and in that number 2 spot, and he considers it, but it's one of those situations where I think a team is going to pay too much to get him to come in and compete to be their starter.
One final thought about this game. The Chicago Bears clearly put their everything into this game. They're clearly extremely excited to have slain the Packers dragon, especially if you look at some of the things that they were saying post-game and they've been saying today. They just won their Super Bowl. They play at San Francisco and they play the Lions. I predict that the Chicago Bears have just won their last game of the 2025 season.
And for the Bears, it is a victory in overtime, 22-16. But there is one very important thing to remember about this. In the grand scheme of things, the Bears still suck.
Damn right.
They really suck. Because the
Green
Bears
Bay goes to a
still
record of
suck.
9-5-1. They are holding on to that number 7 seed in the playoff picture. Neil, as you mentioned, we've got 2 more regular season games to look at. We're going to look at the way this all falls into place, but let's talk about being in Green Bay. Yes, we're going to have some great tailgating coming up on Saturday night as the Baltimore Ravens come into town. But we did kind of our own little bit of getting around town on Saturday. Neil, you and I met up first for the Arsenal match, which, hey, you got a good victory there, right? 1-0.
It was a beautiful victory. Any victory. When you're chasing a title, you've got to get your victories, win on the road. Excellent. And it was great to see John and Tyler and all of the people of Green Bay Armory.
And we tried to get our friend JP to come out with us to watch the game. He made the mistake of telling us that he was A, at home, and B, spending the night in with his family. So we went and crashed his house for a little bit for some pregame action. So JP, thank you very much for at least opening the door when we showed up. And we had a terrific time. He makes wonderful beverages, put some nice food together for us. And it kind of led to the rest of our night, Neil, where we did have a pre-planned event. We decided to go and watch the Packer game at the Lorelei Inn. Our friend Dave owns the Lorelei. And there's a story about the Lorelei Inn. This used to be a Bears bar, right? Dave's dad was actually a Chicago Bears fan, and there is some memorabilia up on the wall. Neil, I think you looked at it. You saw some of the old photos up there. Dave, obviously being a Packers fan now, kind of has changed things, but he was nice enough to have the game on, and he was working Saturday night. He's the owner. He doesn't usually work Saturday nights, but he was there, and then a couple other friends of ours from high school, John and Lisa, were in. And it was just a nice Saturday night in Green Bay.
It's a great place to watch a game. It's a great place to hang out. There's a reason why it's one of our favorite bars in Green Bay, or technically Alloway.
Well, guys, I wasn't there this weekend. I will see you next weekend.
And Jeff, it's probably a good thing you're coming to Green Bay. That game Saturday night, 7 p.m., Packers-Ravens, is on Peacock. It is not going to be on network television. So if you're in the home market, if you're in the Green Bay market, you're going to get to watch the game on TV. If you are outside of Green Bay, you're going to have to subscribe to Peacock to get that. But we'll be there tailgating. It should be a beautiful night in Green Bay, no matter what. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It's always a beautiful night in Green Bay. And ideally, we're all going to be watching that game live in person, in full color, inside Lambeau Field.
John, what is the general feature of a 7 p.m. game at Lambeau Field as far as the general buzz, and I use that word intentionally, of the crowd?
You mean in the sense that people will be tailgating all day and drinking all day, in addition to, the early sunsets in Green Bay at that time of year? The tailgate party is going to feature the disco lights, Neil. It's going to be a party.
Looking forward to it. And obviously we've got some major holiday days before then, but it's going to be a very fun Saturday night at Lambeau Field.
2 games really had a big impact on what Saturday night at Lambeau Field is going to be like, Neil, right? It's Detroit losing to Pittsburgh 29-24. Detroit now drops to 8-7. We'll take a look at their hopes here in a second. New England beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-24. Ravens are 7-8. So the Baltimore Ravens have to win their last 2 games to get to the playoffs. Who do they play in their last game? Oh, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And before they play the Steelers, it's Green Bay. So the Ravens really have this urgency to win, right? They are going to come to play Saturday night. They have to beat Green Bay. They have to beat Pittsburgh if they want to have a chance to get into the postseason. Oh, by the way, their quarterback got injured tonight, Jeff. They still have Derrick Henry, though, right?
They do, and if he keeps fumbling, that's a good thing.
Okay, we're fine.
But it's not just Derrick. I mean, that's the thing, right? The Ravens against the Patriots was an interesting game tonight, specifically because of the firepower that the Ravens showed on both offense and defense. Obviously, the Patriots did too. We don't give a shit about them unless we play them in the Super Bowl. But the fact is that there are a lot of ways that the Ravens could beat us, and I just don't think that a back injury is going to keep Lamar Jackson out either when everything is on the line.
Right, Neil, there's 2 games left in the regular season. So if you want to play more than 2 games, it's the old, you got to leave everything on the field, right? And to leave everything on the field, you got to get on the field. And I think that there's definitely going to be an urgency to get Lamar Jackson on the field. And again, to just play strong Saturday night in Green Bay.
So, John, the same goes for our quarterback, too, Jordan Love, to get him concussion protocol.
And that's one of those things you can't force. You cannot force completion of concussion protocol. it either happens or it doesn't, and that's on the player. And I'm sure Jordan wants to pass all the tests, but if the medical staff keeps him out, now we're looking at, is Malik Willis ready to go?
I think the only thing that's positive here is that Matt LaFleur suggested that it was not a particularly severe concussion, which makes it much more likely you'll be back out of concussion protocol. Again, we don't know. I don't have any specific medical information on what's going on here, but LaFleur was implying that he thinks the odds are at least decent that Jordan Love is going to be out of concussion protocol. Now, Malik Willis also with injuries as well. And that's the situation we want to avoid, is going to our practice squad quarterback, Clayton Tune.
And we don't even know what number Clayton Tune wears.
John, it's always about the fucking numbers with you, isn't it?
Hey, how am I going to identify him on the field deal?
I had to look up who the fuck Clayton Tune even was, in the period as we're looking at this. So it's Arizona. He played for Arizona as a 5th-round draft pick. And, that is not what you want in a game that you have to win, except that we no longer have to win this. And that was the one gift that Aaron Rodgers gave us today, is that we do not have to win against Baltimore. We just have to win one of the last two, or have Detroit lose one of their last two.
And in those last two games for both teams is the Minnesota Vikings. So Detroit playing the Vikings this week. Green Bay has the Vikings the following week. Again, always to Jeff, what is the temperature? What's the what's the reading in Minnesota? How are they going to ride this out with McCarthy's injury today? Does anybody even care anymore?
No, not that I can tell, John. Yeah. McCarthy, another injury, hand injury. Apparently x-rays are negative. So will he be playing on Christmas? Who knows? Will he make it through the Christmas game if he does play? Who knows? Kind of a lost season for the Vikings, but you know what? When the Packers come to Minneapolis, it's not going to be a walkover. Right. The Vikings are going to play tough.
And with the injury, Jeff, for the Lions and the Vikings, this is a short week. I totally forgot they're playing on Thursday.
Yeah, they'll be playing on Christmas, and sometimes those short prep periods, you get weird stuff happen.
And you can see that Kevin O'Connell is going to want to try to reestablish his team, and will have his team up. And my instinct always on a short week is choose the home team. And that game is in Minnesota. So that may be bad for Detroit, but bad for Detroit means that game against the Ravens might not matter so much for us, because if Detroit loses on Christmas, we'd be going in as a playoff team playing the Ravens.
Yeah. Right. Detroit losing on Thursday puts Green Bay with a win into the postseason. Right now, the question is, when we get into the last week, as Green Bay is going to close out the season with Minnesota, but Detroit is playing Chicago. Is Detroit going to do us a favor? Are they going to try to play against Chicago in the last week of the season, or do they even care where Green Bay and Chicago get seated in the postseason?
Well, first of all, we need Chicago to lose to San Francisco next week for that game to matter to us at all. I mean, if Chicago wins against San Francisco, then we're the 7th seed no matter what, essentially.
And 49ers, even though they're in the postseason, they have incentive to win, right? They can still move up as far as seeding goes.
They can be the 1 seed. They still can be the one seed.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think that there's a decent chance that the Bears are going to lose in San Francisco. It's goes to the question that you asked, which is Detroit going to give a shit if Chicago versus Green Bay wins? And I am less confident in Detroit against Chicago under those circumstances.
So how important is it for Green Bay to get a home playoff game? So we're talking a lot of obviously different scenarios here, but it would be really nice if we could win the division. It's not up to us. I mean, if we went out, Bears could still take it, but it would be really nice to have a home playoff game, wouldn't it?
It would, except we kind of blew that against the Bears yesterday night.
Yeah, you also have to look at, if you're the 7th seed, where you end up going to the 2 seed, which could be Chicago, could be Philadelphia, depending on how things fall into play. Even could be Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco. There's a lot of things that are in play there. It just, I guess that question is, if you got to go on the road, where do you want to go?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
You can say whatever you want. I mean, you could say, well, I'd like to go to San Francisco because, well, we can't win against San Francisco, but that's not really the mental direction I think the team wants to take. But I mean, there's just too many possibilities at this point. And all we can focus on is what the Packers can do against the Ravens on Saturday.
Yeah, sure. After the Week 17 matchup, we'll definitely have a clearer look at how the playoff scenarios are going to fall into play and the seeding will fall into play as we go into Week 18. Remember, none of those Week 18 games are scheduled yet either. And a lot of it is reliant on. And credit the NFL for the way they changed the schedule, 20, 25 years ago, to focus on divisional games near the end of the season. And they've done, for the most part, a pretty good job of predicting where the strengths of each division are going to be to get those quality games. And that is what we are talking about in the last 2 weeks of the season, just throughout the top of the NFC here. Some quality games that are going to determine where these teams fall for the postseason.
But where we need quality is against the Baltimore Ravens. And no matter what we're doing there, we have a 2-game losing streak right now with 2 absolutely heartbreaking losses where we had 2-score leads in the fourth quarter. And this is where you can look at the Ravens and their numbers all year. And, they were very up and down. They've obviously got great talent, but this is a game where it comes down to testicular fortitude. And you've just got to want to win it, no matter who your quarterback is, no matter who is able to play or who is not able to play. There comes a point where it is will more than anything else. And the statistics aren't going to matter. It's which team is going to want that game more that is going to determine who comes out of Green Bay next Saturday with the victory.
Neil, the much too early forecast, daytime high temperature, 40 degrees, 50% chance of precipitation, but this is a 7 p.m. kickoff. That means that after sunset, temperatures are going to drop pretty quickly. If it is precipitating, any rain is going to switch to snow. So it could be a classic winter game at Lambeau Field Saturday night.
I would love to have a snow game. That would just be fun. And it doesn't matter what the stakes are at that point. It's that certainly the fans are going to be juiced because of the weather, and the Packers players should play off of a really excited fan base. And that's the other thing about this game. There are going to be very few people traveling from Baltimore for this game, especially 2 days after Christmas. But even so, it's not a game that would have been likely to draw a lot of Ravens fans. So it is going to be an opportunity for the Packers fans to be in unison and very, very loud.
Jeff, final thought from you?
I'm looking forward to being in Green Bay, looking forward to the tailgate. If we get a little snow, all the merrier. So I'm hoping that the fans, being one of them, at least tailgating, watching the excitement grow and build to support this team that is coming off these couple brutal losses. They could really use a break, and hopefully little home cooking, maybe a little snow game. The fans are going to be tuned up for tailgating for many hours prior. I'm hoping for the best. Originally, the Packers earlier this afternoon were 2.5-point favorites. They are now 1.5-point underdogs. So maybe there's a little bit of chip now as well, not getting the respect that they deserve at home. And they can come out, they can dominate. And regardless of all the other things going on in the league, they win the game, they're in the playoffs, then that's settled. Go Pack, go.
And a reminder that Lot 1 tailgate party is preseason, regular season, green games, gold games, sun, rain, snow. It doesn't matter. We're going to be there. Kickoff is 7 p.m. The parking lot opens up at 3 p.m. So, again, like you said, Jeff, people are probably going to be drinking all day, right? Because it's a night game. Neil, you're ready to get juiced up for Saturday as well, aren't you?
Cheers.
So that tailgate party will be going on. And a quick point, Neil, when we look at how things went yesterday, you had asked me a couple of weeks ago, what's better, pregame or postgame? And I told you that postgame is contingent on win or lose, right? Last night's postgame was not very much fun, was it?
No, it certainly could have been better, but you know what? We were together, and maybe not as celebratory, but I'm looking forward to it being truly celebratory on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's, again, great thing. Looking forward to both of you being there Saturday. In the meantime, have a Merry Christmas. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, leave a comment. Find the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat. That is all one word, Green Bay Chat. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Blue Sky, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And on Facebook, it's the GBC podcast Green Bay Chat. And please follow us on any and all of those social media platforms. And may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.